Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Attacking Football Podcast. I am your host, LA Matthews. Joining me this week, we've got Scott, we've got Chris back for the second week in a row because last week, if you haven't already watched it, go and watch it. We ranked the all-time best Premier League goalkeepers. There was a bit of controversy in the comments as well. But this week we're going to have probably a bigger fight because we're doing centre-backs. Chris, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Again.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think there was only one real big argument over the goalkeepers, wasn't there? And that was Jordan Pickford. That was the biggest fight that we had.
No, I feel like Ederson was the bigger fight. I won't lie. I felt more strongly about Ederson than I did Pickford.
Fine. I think Ederson was the bigger argument on the podcast. I think Jordan Pickford has gone on longer in our group chat.
Yeah.
Oh, Dahlia.
Oh no,
Yeah.
the episode.
It's still going.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're going to do centre-backs this week. I think the viewers at home can probably guess which ones we're going to fight about, in that we have a Man United fan, a Liverpool fan, and a Chelsea fan. But let's get into it and we're going to see. And we're saving probably the most controversial one to last. So we're going to start with Rio Ferdinand. How are we thinking about this one, boys?
D. Sorry. No.
We're going to fight really early.
I think Rio Ferdinand is probably S. I think out of most of the centre backs from that era that we're going to be talking about, I think he's the most attuned to maybe he could play across all eras. He's kind of,
I think that's
his skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think he was a really good defender. He's definitely S. I think.
Chris?
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be the best one in S, but he's probably in the S tier, yeah.
Right. Now, I wanted to get your opinion before I gave mine, because obviously I think Rio Ferdinand is probably in the top 3 centre-backs in Premier League history. And there's not really a debate about that for me. But as usual, we're going to go through some stats. Before we get into the stats, these boys have obviously seen the list of the centre-backs that we're going to talk about today. They've already made their list of who's going in what category. I haven't. I'm going to be doing this off the cuff and as we speak. So I'm open to you guys giving me your reasoning and then influencing my decision. But Rio Ferdinand, so he is a 6-time Premier League champion, 504 appearances, 189 clean sheets. Now, the bonkers stat for me, and this will be interesting because I haven't checked anybody else's, so we'll see how they stack up. But how many goals conceded do you think there are in 504 appearances?
Maybe 390?
Yeah, I was going to say 350.
180.
Surely that's not correctly calculated.
Yeah, I was thinking this because he's only got 189 clean sheets. So if he's conceded in the other... So goals conceded doesn't really... This is, by the way, this is coming from the Premier League's official website.
I think this might be the same as the errors leading the goals, mate. I don't think it's counting his time at Leeds or West Ham or anything like that. I think it's probably only counting for maybe 2006 up or something.
Yeah.
Do we know when Premier League started collecting these statistics?
I think it is around 2005, 2006.
Okay, because his first Premier League title was 2002 with Man United, and he was obviously Leeds and West Ham before that. So,
yeah.
Okay, maybe we can't take that into account, which is a shame because I really want to know that. Where's Alfie when we need him? Because
he's retired.
We need some. Yeah, and even if I went and asked ChatGPT now, it wouldn't find the correct statistics, would it?
No, I don't think so. It'll probably take the Premier League's stat.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Can we take the clean sheets in? We can't, can we?
No, not really, no.
All right, well, fuck Rio Ferdinand statistics. He's a 6-time Premier League champion, and he's going in S tier.
Who needs stats when we're all unanimous?
Well, yeah, quite. Okay, fine. Now, Arsenal fans would probably argue black and blue that our next defender should also be in S tier. I think he's probably amongst the best leaders on this list. Tony Adams, and he's another one that stats aren't going to really work for.
Yeah. See, the thing with Tony Adams is most of his career came before the Premier League. Pretty sure.
Did it?
I think so, wasn't it? I think it might actually be half and half. I think it might be
Yeah, I'm gonna have
10
a
years
look.
First Division, 10 years Premier League.
I'm
Even
gonna,
then, 10 years Premier League is still a long time. So
while you two debate that, I'm gonna have a look.
Chris, where do you have Tony Adams?
If it was tier listed captains, I'd have him in S, but it's not. It's centre backs, so I think he's
Yeah.
gonna go in A.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with A as well.
And if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd probably be begging him to go into S. But
Yeah.
that's the only real argument for S I can see. I think A suits.
Go on, Chris. You can finish.
No, I just think A suits him. I don't think, like when you're talking about elite tier centre backs, I don't know if anyone's really saying Tony Adams.
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, I would have put him in A regardless, but yeah, 9 seasons in the First Division, 11 seasons in the Premier League. That doesn't. Wow, 20-year career.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy. It must be said.
If it was just English, like all time, maybe 20 years at that high level, but it's Premier League, so
his appearances. Now, he played only 255 games in the Premier League and 250 in the First Division. So he obviously had a little bit of trouble in his personal life while he was at Arsenal. But there's no denying he's definitely an Arsenal legend. He's probably up there with top 2 or 3 all-time Arsenal centre-backs. But if we're going to keep this S tier to the really elite of the elite, then yeah, I think he goes in A.
Yeah.
Right. From one side of North London to the other, in fact, both sides of North London, we've got Sol Campbell. What are we thinking, boys?
Sol Campbell's a tricky one for me. I think I would ultimately land up on putting Sol Campbell in B. I think he was an incredible defender, but was he right up there? I think he might have just been just below.
So he was, for the most part, Rio Ferdinand's partner for England until he sort of retired, and then it was John Terry. But I don't know, man. I think Sol Campbell is very top of B, bordering on A for me. I think he was an absolutely brilliant centre back.
Yeah, he was a brilliant centre back, but the names on this list, I'm just looking at, was he on their level? I'm not quite sure.
Well, let's have a look
at some of the other names going into A. From looking at the other names and kind of picking who's going to go into A, I don't know if Sol Campbell belongs with some of them names.
Do we really want to set the precedent of trying to rank the people who are going to come before we rank the people that we're talking about?
No, well, it's not really how I'm ranking it. It's kind of it's all time. Like Sol Campbell, like if you're, as I said last week on the goalkeepers one, if you're talking about every Premier League centre back ever, you're probably going to end up putting Sol Campbell in S. It's the reason he's on the list, because there'll be so many players that he'll just ultimately fall in S. But because it's the best centre backs ever, you kind of have to judge it off that, and based on best centre backs ever, I think it's B.
Chris, are you going with B? Stop watching the Kvara goal.
Yeah, I'm happy with B.
Irrespective of what my ranking is, he's going in B. I had him at the top of B, kind of bottom of A, so I'm not too displeased with that.
We might have pissed off both Spurs and Arsenal fans there, which probably isn't hard with Sol Campbell.
What a shame.
We don't have a Spurs or Arsenal fan on the podcast, so I don't care. Okay, now Vincent Kompany is the next defender. Again, probably top 3 leaders on this list. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Should we have a look at his statistics? Because he's one that we definitely can look at.
Yeah.
It's showing me his managerial statistics in the Premier League, which is really annoying.
They probably won't be too great.
They're not fantastic, no. Got relegated and then got the Bayern Munich job. That makes all the sense in the world. Okay. Right. personal statistics. So 265 appearances, 4-time Premier League champion. These will all be accurate as well. So clean sheets, 94. That's a baffling one. Now, the goals conceded is going to be accurate for Vincent Kompany. 265 appearances, he conceded 217 goals.
That's not bad. That's less than a goal a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you think how dominant City were for years,
Yeah.
like that's kind of surprising.
That is surprising. Okay. 75% tackle success rate. That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, what are we thinking, boys?
Look,
He's going to go an A for me.
My initial thought process is that I think Vincent Kompany is an S tier defender.
Okay. Is he a better defender than Tony Adams?
I mean, but people tell me that I didn't watch Tony Adams, so I personally think Vincent Kompany is one of the best centre backs the Premier League's seen.
Yeah, is he a better defender than Rio Ferdinand? I don't think so. I don't think he's a better defender than Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah, but you can still like there'll be people in S tier who will be better than others in S tier, and people in A who are better than others in A. I just think Vincent Kompany, he's kind of one of the. I know people say City, the new owners, the sheikhs, the money, but Vincent Kompany coming in was a real shift in Manchester City's success as well.
Yeah, that's true. I think he was a catalyst for Manchester City's success.
And it's not like his defensive partners across the years have been unbelievable. Like, I mean, Joleon Lescott wasn't that one of his main ones when City were challenging for the league?
Yeah, it was. I don't think Joleon Lescott won very much. I think he was moved on quite quickly. But yeah,
like Joleon Lescott, he's a good defender, but he's not who you first think of when you think of players challenging or teams challenging.
Well, he's not on our list.
Yeah,
he's not on our list. So yeah, he can't be fantastic. Chris, where do you sit on this?
I was gonna say A. I thought S was a bit strong, but Scott's kind of convincing me that Kompany belongs in S tier.
Convincing me as well, because I was thinking A. But you're right, he did have a big impact on the Premier League. Let's not forget he scored a title-winning goal as well.
Yeah.
So if it comes to being, let's say, clutch, as it were, okay, I'm happy to put him in S tier then, because I think I've been convinced. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't all speak at once. It's fine.
Hopefully, me convincing there is good omen for later.
We're in a weird position here of having more defenders in S tier than we have anywhere else at the moment. So let's move on to the next one, and we've got Steve Bruce. Now, Steve Bruce, I don't think he goes into S tier, but I think Steve Bruce is a really underrated defender, and I think modern football fans look at Steve Bruce and see his record as a manager and automatically translate that to him as a footballer, and it's just not the same. It is levels and levels and levels above. Levels above. Thoughts? Because I want to put him in A.
It's a bit before my time, but I definitely think he's better than Sol Campbell, but I don't know if he's as good as Tony Adams.
Oh, he's definitely as good as Tony Adams. I can quite happily take off this Man United shirt and my Man United hat and definitely say the same thing. He is 100% a better defender than Tony Adams.
Then you won't like my opinion of that. I have him in C.
You've got him in C? That's wild. That's legitimately insane.
I don't think it really is, though. I mean, he was a quality centre-back, world-class centre-back, one of the best. But
how can you say that and then also have him in C?
Because it's still a list of the great centre-backs. Like,
he's a 3-time Premier League champion. He won the UEFA Super Cup. He won the FA Cup 3 times. He won the League Cup twice. He's one of the most decorated defenders on this list.
Yeah, but I'm held to the opinion I don't really think being decorated means very much when it comes to ability.
Wow.
He's only saying that because he knows he has that argument with Van Dijk. Don't mind.
Yeah, I think he's setting that up because trophies are going to very much come up when we have that conversation. I see. C is wild for me, genuinely.
Just the names on this list, man. I think
I don't
players
think
have to
we can
go.
put him anywhere other than A.
I mean, I can be compromised on a B tier.
No, there's no compromise. This is a vote. Stick to where you want to put him. That's fine. I've got no issue with that. Jesus Christ. Okay. Chris, let's take your vote.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, good shout. I'm putting him in A as well. Sorry,
I'm not.
sorry, Scott. Sorry, Scott. Okay. I think I know what's coming here, right? And we're going to have a very long conversation about how the integrity of this list is compromised now because Steve Bruce is sitting in A, but he fucking deserves it, mate. He does. Ricardo Carvalho.
I think this is an A tier defender.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holds the record jointly with John Terry for most number of clean sheets, and not most number of least number of goals conceded in a season.
Yeah, and I think across those years, whereas Carvalho and Terry, I think Carvalho was probably the better of the two. But obviously, we'll come on to Terry later, but I think Carvalho's A tier.
A couple of things that go against him. He only made 135 Premier League appearances, not very many. 63 clean sheets, but I think he won the Premier League 3 times, 04, 05, 05, 06, and then again in 9-10 towards the end of his career. I don't think he was playing very much in that season.
No.
But he was a Rolls Royce of a defender. He complemented John Terry really, really well. I would liken him to Rio Ferdinand and Vidic. There was a really combative, aggressive front foot defender, and then there was the one that kind of sat back, read the game, and mopped up behind. And they complemented each other really well. But yeah, I'm more than happy to move him into A, gents, if we're all agreed.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna have another fight about this one, I think. Gary Pallister. If you've got him in C, Scott, I'm ending the podcast. I legitimately am.
What happens if he's below that?
Oh, jeez.
Then I might just delete the channel because that's outrageous.
I have Gary Pallister in B.
In B.
Yeah.
Do you think Gary Pallister is a better defender than Steve Bruce?
Yeah.
Very much the other way around.
I don't really think so.
Did you watch them play?
No, but in the time I had
Come on.
I mean, what do you want me to do? I watched clips earlier because you sent me the list, so like, and I just thought Gary Pallister look, he looked more assured.
I'm gonna go fucking nuclear. No. Again, if we're looking at defenders in like one of 2 categories, where you've got your Rio Ferdinand and your Nemanja Vidic, Steve Bruce was very much the Rio Ferdinand, and Gary Pallister was the aggressive one. Steve Bruce was a fantastic ball playing centre back. He was very, very good. Gary Pallister was a fucking battering ram. He's not as good as Steve Bruce. I would put him in B.
Yeah, but back in that era, the battering ram was the more useful of a centre back.
God.
It was more about physicality back then than it was playing the ball.
I'm going to speak directly to Paddy for a second. Hi, Paddy. This may very well be the end of the Attacking Football podcast. I'm just letting you know. Okay, where do I send my resignation? Chris, Gary Pallister, talk to me about him.
I had him in B.
You got him in B.
Kind of mirror what you said. He was kind of like the understudy to Steve Bruce. I feel like he was always Steve Bruce and Pallister. It was never the two of them together. Like the way it was always Vidic and Ferdinand.
Yeah.
So I had him in B, just not like I'm going to act like I'm an expert on him though.
No, and you know what? I grew up when I very first started watching football. The very first game I ever saw, and I wrote an article about this on the Attacking Football website, was the 1994 FA Cup final against Chelsea. We won 4-0. Chris, you probably avoided that, and rightly so. Gary Pallister and Steve Bruce were our centre backs at the time, and they were just a completely different level. And it is the basis on why Man United was successful in the first place. But let's go with B. I'm happy with B. We all go. Scott, where do you have him? C.
No, I had him in B.
You had him in B, so it's a unanimous B.
Hmm.
Jesus Christ, we got there in the end. Okay. Okay. Scott, you can kick us off on the next one. We're going to talk about Jamie Carragher.
To me personally, I think this is an easy B. I think he wasn't the most physical, he wasn't the quickest, but it's just the way he read the game just meant he was a top quality centre back. I think the way he anticipated the ball was incredible. Like you've seen the people on this list, they have some sort of outstanding physical attribute. But Jamie Carragher, he wasn't quick, he wasn't the most physical, he wasn't aerially dominant, but he was still unbelievably smart when it came to defending.
Yeah, I think the guys who are above him probably are the ones that were above him for England as well, and were the reason that he was shifted out to right back for a lot of his England career. I'm just checking now, actually, on Transfer Market, how many times he played at centre back versus as a fullback for Liverpool, because that's interesting to me, because I think his main centre back partner was Sami Hyypiä, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else did you have centre back then?
Back then, Hyypiä, Agger, Skrtel.
Daniel Agger, yeah, that's right. So he played 86 times at right back.
Yeah. And he probably has
48 times at left back.
Yeah, and he was like 600 at centre back or something.
300.
300.
Yeah, this is what I was getting at, right? Is that I think he was more of a utility defender.
No, I don't think you can say that when it's only 70 and 60 as full back, and then it's 300 at centre back.
Well, no, it's 150 almost at full back and 300 at centre back. So a third of his games were played as a fullback. So it's not quite. I'm not saying.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
He's on the list, right? He's on the list for centre back for a reason. I didn't put him in the fullbacks list because that would be silly, because he is a centre back.
Yeah.
But I think if to be considered as an all-time great, you have to be the number one in your position for your club. And I don't think he was for a lot of his career. I think there were people ahead of him a lot.
Oh no, he 100% was. I'm pretty sure most of them fullback games would have came between 99 and 2003.
Maybe.
I think once Rafa Benitez came in, he was the main centre back in that team.
Did he play centre back in the Champions League finals? The two that he played.
Yes,
he lost one.
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
Okay. Look, fine. It is what it is. I'm not arguing that he isn't a centre back. I just trying to work out where to put him as a centre back. And Chris, make an argument for me, because I think Scott, you've got him in B, right? I'm between B and C.
I had him in D.
You had him D. That's silly. That's silly. He's a better defender than that.
Is he?
Yeah.
He was 100% was.
Yeah.
He wasn't. I think people remember him way too fondly, because he was a bang average centre back. He was nothing special.
No, but that's you're saying bang average because he wasn't quick, he wasn't physical, but he was still part of a Liverpool team that kept many clean sheets under Rafa Benitez and throughout those years, and that was because he was a very smart centre back.
Yeah, no, I'm
195 clean sheets.
I don't think I think he was a very average defender. Now, I've openly said I do not like the man, so take from that what you will. But look,
you don't like him as a human being, you mean?
I could settle on a C, but D probably.
Do you mean you don't like him as a human being, or you don't like him as a footballer?
As a human.
Because he spits at little girls.
And he's just a bit of a knob on the telly, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people are a bit of a knob on telly. That doesn't disqualify you from being an exceptional footballer. I mean, even Joey Barton made it as a professional footballer, and he is the legitimate largest cunt on the planet. So, can I say the C word? I know we
No,
F-bomb.
that's
You might have...
we're
Back it in.
a good bit into the podcast. I think as long as you don't say when like the first like 5% of the podcast.
We might have to bleep that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But okay, so you're going D, B. If we all vote for a different letter, what do we do?
What are you voting for?
Just ends everything.
Because I was probably going to go around C, but I could have been persuaded for B. I think D is outrageous because I think he's a better defender than that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's as good as... He's definitely not as good as Sol Campbell. He's definitely not as good as Steve, maybe he's on a level with Gary Pallister. All right,
the way I
put
see
him in
it
B.
was, I knew people weren't going to like D, and I thought we'd settle on C, so I was like, look, I don't want him in C. He probably is actually. But if he's in B, then there's trouble.
He's in B. Get him in B.
I think he's going to go in B. I'm sorry, Chris. Sorry, mate. Okay. Let's move quickly along to who I think, if he'd played a little bit later, would have been in the conversation for one of the all-time greats. Is Paul McGrath.
Yeah.
Fantastic defender. A lot of his career came a little bit before my time. In fact, I think his first ever professional game was, I think, before I was born. And I am old, so that's saying quite something. Let's have a quick look at Paul McGrath when he started his career.
Scott, we have the same thing to do as we did with Shea Given last week.
we could commit corruption right in front of everyone's eyes.
Yeah, I mean, 82-83 was his first season in the first division. So yeah, a lot of his career came before I was born. Great career with Man United, fantastic career with Aston Villa. Where have you got him in your list? Because you guys have predetermined where you're putting people. So
where do you have him, Chris?
I had him in A.
A.
I don't know if I've been.
That might be a bit high. Yeah.
Look,
like I could see him, but like now Jamie Carragher's in B, and he's obviously a much better defender than Jamie Carragher.
Yeah. So Chris, what we could do is both change our votes to C for Carragher.
No, I think look, I'm Irish. I love Paul McGrath, but in an all-time Premier League defenders list, I think he's towards the bottom.
No. Yeah, do you know what? I think I could be persuaded because he's 5 or 6 seasons in the Premier League. He didn't play very much. His last season came with Derby County. He only played 24 games. The season before that, he was at Villa. Didn't play very much. Yeah, do you know what?
This the problem that's going to keep happening is like we have. You're gonna most of the players on this list, 99% of them, you're probably gonna have. You're holding them in high esteem, but you're not ranking them based on their ability. You're ranking them based on their ability in terms of the best.
Yeah. No, you're right. You are right. Yeah. I
think, unfortunately for Paul McGrath, he probably falls down towards D.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with D as well. Sorry, Chris. I understand what you're saying here. Is I think he would be an A defender against everybody else in the Premier League, but when he's against these guys, suddenly he falls down the list a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, Chris, you might want to join me in this one. I think I'm going to move Jamie Carragher down to C for that exact reason. Because when you stack him up against the other Premier League defenders, suddenly he's not looking as... Because against every other Premier League defender that's ever been, he probably is in the B tier. But when you compare him to these 25 guys, I think he's probably in C. Chris, you want to change your vote?
Happily.
Sorry.
This is corruption. This is corruption right in front of everyone's eyes. Corruption.
Right. Hang on, I'm just going to check VAR. No, he's still a dick. C.
Pugmall. Call them up.
I have a strong suspicion that you're going to hold that little mutiny against me for the next one. But let's do Nemanja Vidic. Who wants to go first?
He's obviously S, but I'm trying to find a way to debate it, but he's not.
I genuinely don't think Nemanja Vidic is an S tier defender. I think he's A.
Are you actually mental?
No. If you go watching Nemanja Vidic highlights, most of his clips are going to be him recovering because he's out position, he's made mistakes, he's doing slide tackles, he's rash. I genuinely think he's an A-tier defender.
That was his role in the side. He was the entire Man United defense was set up around that Vidic would go forward and go press tightly, and Rio Ferdinand would be covering behind. It was the entire premise of the defense. That was done by design. He wasn't getting caught out. He was going to try and win the ball and attempt turnovers so that we could break on transition. It was intentional.
But he didn't do it very well, I don't think.
He did do it very well.
He was an incredibly rash defender. He doesn't survive in the modern age.
He's better than Rio Ferdinand.
No, I don't think so. I think Rio's far ahead of him.
When people have debates online and on podcasts, when Vidic's name comes up, almost immediately someone will mention Fernando Torres. Tell me that you're not going to do that, and tell me.
No, I'm not going to do that, because I think that's a silly debate to say one player, good. but I think it was a situation that highlighted his like inabilities. I think he was an incredibly rash defender.
So Marcus Rashford scored more goals on Van Dijk than Torres did on Vidic. And in the last games, I want to throw that out there. So we can then make that argument for Van Dijk. It's just
but
outrageous,
because it's completely different. Because Van Dijk doesn't even play on the left side on the side of the defense that Rashford plays against.
He's a defender. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he's not coming up against Rashford in 1v1 situations like Vidic was with Torres. Okay,
look, fine. I mostly said that for the people who are watching, who are literally going to go, yeah, but Fernando Torres roasted Vidic. He didn't. They played 15 games against each other, and I think Torres scored 4 goals.
When it comes to world-class centre-backs, Vidic was the original Bozo Gene centre-back. He was the originator.
Oh.
If you go watch his highlights, and you go watch... I think if Vidic was playing in the modern age, there would be a lot more discussion about him, because there'd be a lot more clips on social media than he has. He was an incredibly rash defender. I
legitimately think that he is a better defender than Van Dijk across every aspect of his game. Every aspect.
No, not at all.
Definitely.
No.
I genuinely believe he is probably, alongside John Terry, the best defender in Premier League history. Rio Ferdinand sitting a little bit below that, but I think as an out-and-out defender, Nemanja Vidic is the greatest centre-back in Premier League history.
No, I don't think so at all. He was incredibly rash. Bozo Gene. He had his moments where he's absolutely useless, absolutely brain-dead when it came to defending.
Scott, he holds the record for the most amount of minutes without conceding a fucking goal.
Yeah, okay.
Consecutive minutes.
Yeah,
and it's insane. They had 11 consecutive clean sheets.
Yeah, and Carvalho...
You don't do that by having...
And Carvalho has the record for the least goals conceded in the season, and we still have him in A.
No, that's fine. I'm adding that as a caveat for why he isn't a bozo defender. He is not one of those calamity defenders that you expect a mistake from. He was an absolutely rock solid warrior.
I think you're remembering the good moments more than the bad.
Genuinely not. That's not how I operate. I'm generally the opposite. I remember the bad things more than the good. But I'm going to go and look up some statistics while we hear from Chris.
So I think Scott's being harsh, very harsh. Like
I think he's the very first name in A, but I don't think he's S.
No, I genuinely don't see how he's anything below S. I think he's better than everybody we have in S so far.
No, I don't think so.
Just some statistics, right? He holds the record for being the only defender to ever win Player of the Season twice. He is a 5-time Premier League champion in, I think, 6 seasons in the Premier League. 211 appearances, 95 clean sheets. So almost half of his games, he kept a clean sheet in. He only conceded 133 goals, which is half a goal per game. That is monumental defending. Yeah, it's insane defensive stats.
I don't see how he goes below S.
He's going in S, Scott. Sorry, In fact, no, why am I saying sorry? I'm not sorry. He genuinely deserves to be at the top of it. In fact, I'm going to do this. There we go.
Corruption.
Okay. It's not corruption, Scott. I just think you're wrong, mate. Okay, let's move on to Marcel Desailly and a chance for Chris to make a case for one of his defenders.
I don't know. That's an easy, tough one. I obviously didn't get to see a lot of them, but at the same time, like the general consensus around the fan base is solid centre back. He's not near Carvalho, right? Or Terry.
World Cup winning.
Yeah, well, when we're doing it on the Prem, that kind of
Yeah, no, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
like if we
That's
go back
fair.
to last week, Hugo Lloris, you know.
Yeah.
I had him in B. I think him and Sol Campbell are in and around each other, but I can see a case for C if that's where you're going for.
I think if you take his entire career, he probably goes in A. I think if you take his Premier League career, he probably goes in C.
I think Premier League career goes in D. I think most of his career came before the Premier League. He joined Chelsea before Chelsea became one of the Premier League top teams. Premier League wise,
yeah.
I don't think people remember Desailly for his Premier League career.
No, that's true. That is true. I will give you that. I think they remember him for France and for AC Milan, but he played more games for Chelsea than he did for AC Milan. But I think he joined a really poor Chelsea side. I think his centre back partner was Frank Leboeuf.
Yeah,
Now that guy had the bozo gene, by the way. And you said Nemanja Vidic was the person who started the bozo gene. No, mate. No.
Yeah, but Frank Leboeuf's not on this list, is he?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think he's a better defender than D, but you're right. We've got to take into an awful lot of things into account here.
Yeah.
All time centre backs, he's probably up around A and B, but in Premier League, I think it's D.
Chris,
I was happy to settle for C. I had him in B originally, but I was happy enough to go with C.
I think on this occasion I'm going to go with Scott, and I'm going to go with D. Not because he isn't a great defender, and look, Marcel Desailly is not watching the Attacking Football podcast, but if you are, I genuinely believe you're one of the all-time greats. But for the Premier League, I think that's the right place for you. Okay, this one we can have a conversation. We're going to talk about Ledley King, but the conversation needs to center around what he actually did and not his potential, because Ledley King legitimately, in my opinion, had the ability and the potential to be at the very, very top of this list. Like, we're talking top 1 or 2 of all time. Unfortunately, I don't think there's ever been a more injury-prone centre-back. I believe there are stories about Ledley King would not train at all for the 5 days of the week, and he would rock up to the game on Saturday, play, then go home and not show up again until he'd do some fitness work, but he didn't actually play with the team. Is that right?
I think I've heard those stories,
Yeah. He was an absolute monster defender and world-class when he was playing.
Yeah.
And it's a shame for England that he never played more. It's a shame for Spurs as well, obviously, but I think he would have been one of the greats. But we have to rank him on what he is now.
What he did.
What he actually
not
did,
what he could have
right?
been, what he did.
Yeah. I mean, did you guys get much of a chance to see him play? I don't know.
I don't remember much.
I remember a bit of Ledley King. And he was unbelievable, as you said, but based on just what he actually did, I think C or D.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I mean, he also played a not great Spurs side.
Yeah.
And in that side, he still kept 107 clean sheets. He won Player of the Month in 2004, which is quite an achievement for a centre-back. That doesn't happen very often. Yeah, I mean, C or D. Chris, what would you say?
I never really got to see much of him. Good defender, obviously brilliant potential, and he was hyped to the moon by the media. But obviously, didn't go that way. I had him floating in between C and D. I think he's definitely better than E. I just don't
He
know
is.
if
Yeah.
what he's done on the pitch
Yeah.
warrants being in C.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I based now. I think I'm going to say D as well.
Okay. There we are. Sorry, Ledley. It's a shame because genuinely on ability, he's
He could have been an S tier contender. Yeah.
Yeah. But look, what is it they say? The best ability is availability.
Yeah.
Okay. I think probably the easiest conversation we'll have tonight, and Chris, you don't need to vote on this one. John Terry?
Yeah, that's an S.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Top of S as well.
I just want to say
S.
that I think John Terry is the best centre back Premier League's ever seen.
Yep.
Yep. I think the kindest thing I can say here is that he's in the conversation for the top two. So he's either one or he's two. That's it.
Yeah, fair.
But I can see why you would. I genuinely can see why you would say he was number one. I can see it. Okay, let's talk about Martin Keown, the world's worst football pundit. As a defender, he was okay. He was all right.
He was okay.
A bit aggressive, prone to an error, but he was an okay defender. I think he's probably going to be my first E.
Oh,
yeah. I think McGrath, Desai, and Ledley King are streets ahead of Martin Keown.
I don't mind the E shout. I think it was always. I think it was always. It was Tony Adams, not Martin Keown, when you talk
100%
Arsenal's defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with E.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm more than happy. I had him in D originally, but
he's a solid defender.
Yeah.
Solid defender, but I mean, there are lots of solid defenders, and the reason that he's on the list is because he's a high-profile defender, right? And that's because of the media work. If he never went into the media after he retired from football, I don't think he would be on the list, and that's why he's in E.
Fair.
Okay. Now, both of you gentlemen had to go and Google this next guy and spend a little bit of time doing some research. So I'm curious to see what it is that you came up with. So, Scott, we'll start with you, and we're going to talk about Colin Hendry.
Yeah, look, I had no idea who this was when I seen the list. Winning the league with Blackburn, that's an unbelievable achievement.
Huge.
But then again, you have to err on the caution of why didn't I ever hear of him before today?
Because he never went into the media. He's a Scottish guy who wanted his privacy.
Still, though, there's players that you haven't gone into media that still know about.
Like who?
I don't know. It's kind of like one of them one-time things. Once you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, I know them. I don't just in my head rattle off Premier League centre backs of all time.
Okay, Chris.
I don't know. Like everyone says, oh, well, not everybody. I heard of him this morning. The only thing we can judge him off is one Premier League, but like fucking Wes Morgan and Robert Huth have won. There's more than one Premier League. Like,
yeah, I mean,
something to judge a player off.
I was gonna say Colin Hendry earned his Premier League title. That isn't to say that Robert Huth and Wes Morgan didn't, but I mean, that Leicester season was an anomaly, right? They should never have won the Premier League that year. They did, and it's the achievement that it is, and we talk about it the way that we do for a reason, right? Blackburn were legitimately the top two teams in the country, and they were expected to be challenging, and they challenged for a couple of seasons. They had Chris Sutton and Alan Shearer up front. They had a really, really good, solid team, and Colin Hendry was at the heart of that. It's not just his time at Blackburn either. He was a fantastic defender at Bolton and Coventry. Didn't play very much, but at Blackburn he was an absolute warrior. There is an iconic image of Colin Hendry, and if you Google him, I think it's one of the first images that comes up. Maybe in editing we can throw it up on the screen, but Colin Hendry absolutely soaked in blood, wandering through a football pitch. He was that kind of defender. He put his head in where it hurts. For me, I think, and bearing in mind I watched the guy play week in, week out, right? For me, he goes into C as a defender. as an actual defender.
See, the thing is, Blackburn weren't that good for that long. It was maybe 2 or 3 seasons where they were up and around the top 6.
I mean, yeah, their team kind of got dismantled after they won the league. They challenged, I think, the following season as well. Not to the end, but they did challenge. But as is the case when teams who aren't traditionally one of the big teams in England do something good, like it happened with Leicester.
Yeah.
Suddenly, all the big teams come in and cherry pick the players that they want, right?
Yeah.
Colin Hendry, I think, had a chance to sign for Manchester United and he turned it down. And United actually went and got Henning Berg instead, who was his centre-back partner. But he was a loyal footballer. He wanted to stay with Blackburn, and I think he stayed there until he couldn't really play anymore, and then moved on to Coventry. But look, this is a democracy. You guys can vote.
I feel like I'm settling on a D tier here.
Chris?
I have no idea. I'm happy. I genuinely was happy enough between C and D. From the little bit I got to see of him, I was like, yeah, C or D. Maybe the Premier League title carries him up to C. I don't know.
I'm gonna say C, right? And Scott's saying D. So Chris, nail your colours to the mast, mate. Get your little behind off the fence.
Oh, you can stick him in C. Give Jamie Carragher a friend in there.
Yeah, there we go. It's the right decision. It's the right decision. Colin Hendry is genuinely a fantastic defender. Okay, so let's move on to another one for Scott. Scott, you can make your case for Sami Hyypiä.
Yeah, I think this is a B tier centre back. I think Sami Hyypiä was he was a Rolls Royce centre back. I think
Rolls Royce, really?
Oh, Sami Hyypiä was absolutely incredible.
No, he's a really good defender. I am with you 1000%, right? But I don't know if I would class him as a Rolls Royce. That's one of those silky smooth footballers, and he definitely wasn't that. He had his nose broken 30 times a season.
No, I think he was
a battler.
I think when the term Rolls Royce comes up, I think it means a centre back who completely changes the way a team defends. And I think Sami Hyypiä coming in.
I don't think that's what that means.
That's not a Rolls Royce centre back.
No, that's not.
I think it is.
Someone who makes it look easy and just flawlessly does it.
Yeah, I think exactly right. It's unbelievable, and I think it's a B tier.
So you're going with. We can argue about what Rolls Royce is. Well, that doesn't really matter. But let's talk about ability. I'm just going to turn my work phone off because it's going mental. Forgive me. Chris, talk to me about Sami Hyypiä.
My memories of him, he was always better than Carragher. Yes.
Yeah.
So by that logic alone, you'd go B. But I never really seen him a high level centre back. I think he was good, brilliant centre back, but not something to get you on your feet for.
So if these two players played together, and Carragher and Hyypiä, right? They were the quintessential Liverpool centre back pairing at that time. I think they were struggling to break into the top 4 centre backs because that's where Liverpool were at the time. So I would be okay with having them side by side in C, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yep.
I don't think if they were that good enough to get into B in an all-time list, right? They would have been much higher up the table for the amount of time that they were playing together. You can't blame it on everything in front of them, and they have to be a part of that, right?
Yeah, but during that period where Sami Hyypiä was at Liverpool, it was one of Liverpool's most, besides under Jurgen Klopp, one of Liverpool's most successful times.
You only won a Champions League and maybe a League Cup. That was it.
No, well, we won 3 trophies in 2001. Pretty much thanks to Sami Hyypiä coming in. He was captain for a large portion of time.
You won the cups that season, and you called it a trouble. I remember now. I remember. Fine, but one season doesn't make a summer, right? One season doesn't make a career. One swallow doesn't make a summer. I still think he's a C tier defender. I don't think he's as good as Sol Campbell, for example.
No,
I definitely wouldn't put him above Sol Campbell. I would put him above Ledley King, but I wouldn't put him above Sol Campbell.
I think we're doing Sami Hyypiä a big disservice here.
I can't believe he's going above Paul McGrath. Why is Paul McGrath in D?
Because he spent 75% of his career outside of the Premier League.
Oh.
Are you going C, Chris?
Yeah, Hippie and C, yeah.
Sorry, Scott. I am sorry about that one because I like Sami Hyypiä. I think he was a character of English football, but I think ability-wise, hang on, let me put them together. There you go. So your centre-back pairing of 2003 are sat next to each other. Okay, let's move on to, I think this is our final Manchester United player of this list. Jaap Stam.
B.
Okay, why?
Just straight off the bat, I put him B because he is a very good defender, and everybody was terrified of him.
Yeah.
Even growing up, watching him, I was terrified of him.
Yeah.
Or any highlights I look back, even now I'm terrified of him. I can imagine he was a striker's worst nightmare.
He was. Yeah. Let me put it into perspective. He won the league in every single season he played. Every single season he played in the Premier League. 99, 2000, 2001. He made one appearance in 2002, in the 2001-2002 season, just before he left the Premier League. So I'm not counting that, right? So in every season that he played, he won the Premier League. I think that at least gets him into A. Yeah, I am making a case for A. I genuinely believe he'd be. If you take his whole career into account, I think he goes into S because he was just as good for AC Milan. He was just as good for PSV. I think for his Premier League, the fact that he only spent three seasons in the Premier League is what gives him an A for me.
Oh, that's what's given me a B for me is the longevity across the league.
But he did so much in those 3 years. I think he's one of those centre-backs that came in and changed defending.
Yeah, but he didn't win the league for United by himself.
Yeah, he only has 79 Premier League appearances across 3 seasons, which is an average of like 26 games a season.
30, 33, and 15. I've got his seasons in front of me here.
Yeah, like he won the league in every season, but he didn't play much of the 3rd season.
No, he didn't. No. I think he was injured for a lot of that season.
I just think Premier League was unbelievable centre back, but I think he's B tier as well.
Yeah, I'm happy with B.
I think you're going to make a lot of people very unhappy with putting him in B. Like, I'm going to put him in B because I'm being outvoted. And to be fair, it's about time I was outvoted on something because this has been fun for me. But I think you're doing Jaap Stam a significant disservice. I think when everybody has conversations about who the greatest centre-back of all time is in terms of the Premier League, Jaap Stam is always in that conversation. And for that to them have him in B is very, very weird.
Yeah, but in that conversation is also Vidic, Ferdinand, Kompany, Terry, Carvalho, Bruce, and Tony Adams. And I don't think he's better than any of them.
You don't think he's better than any of them as a defender?
No, that's why I have him in B.
But no, as a defender, you said you've got him in B because of longevity, but as a defender.
Oh, across the Prem, yeah, sorry. As a defender across the Prem in 3 years. Yeah, I have him in B. Over all time, sure, he's A or he's probably pushing S, but no, for the Prem, strictly for 3 seasons, I don't see him higher than B.
Okay. Fine. Look, it is what it is. I'm nothing if not amenable to the vote. So let's move on to John Stones. If you've got John Stones higher than Jaap Stam, I will fucking scream.
He has him higher than John Stones, does he? Or he has him higher than Jaap Stam, doesn't he?
John Stones is an A-tier centre-back.
Oh, get fucked. Get fucked.
John Stones is an A-tier centre-back.
There's not a chance.
Yes, he is.
There's not a chance in absolute fucking hell that he is a better defender than Jaap Stam.
I didn't say he was. I said he was an A-tier centre-back.
But you said that Jaap Stam is a B-tier centre-back.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. John Stones is an A-tier centre-back.
That's the way the cookie crumbles is your argument.
That
is lunacy. That is lunacy. I've got John Stones in C.
I've got him in C as well.
What?
I think whenever you think Manchester City, it's Vincent Kompany and John Stones. It's Ruben Diaz and John Stones. It's
no way. He's miles better than Ruben Diaz.
It's the Adams and Keown thing
He's
where
not even the best defender in the England team. Harry Maguire is.
He's miles better than Ruben Diaz in the City squad.
No,
I'm not talking about John Stones this season. I'm talking about him 3 years ago. He was exceptional.
No. Okay, let's put. He's a 6-time Premier League champion, right? Which has to count for something. It does have to count for something. But 250 games in the Premier League, he's only got 75 clean sheets. He's conceded 215 goals. That's mental for someone who's playing for the 6-time Premier League champions.
He played for Everton for ages as well, though. Why is he 2 or 3 years at Everton?
Not. Hang on, I can tell you exactly how many seasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But he didn't play 2 of those seasons. He didn't play any games at all.
Yeah, so he's really 2 seasons at Everton, really.
No, 20. It's first proper season for Everton. 20 appearances. 20 appearances in the next season. 33 in the next season. So not a great deal.
Look, I think John Stones is Ledley King if Ledley King was part of Manchester United squad during Alex Ferguson. Ledley King's a much better defender. I do think I genuinely think that John Stones had the level to be an A or S tier. I think he could have been one of the best modern centre backs that we've seen, but I think his legs are made of quavers.
That is also true. I'm just looking at Chris. I'm just looking at his number of appearances per season for Manchester City. For Manchester City, by the way, right? 27 in his first season, 18, 24, 16, 22, 14, 23, 16, 11. He's never played a full Premier League season.
He's never played more than 26 games, was it?
27.
27 highest.
It's 2/3 of the season, never.
I'm going
to put him in C.
And even now in the last few years, he's not even been playing centre back. I'm pretty sure they moved him into midfield. Yeah. They moved him at the full back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cavani played at centre back ahead of him at times.
Yeah.
They moved John Stones into midfield quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
He goes C for me. Scott?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
Okay. All right. Just out of interest, Chris, you said A, yeah?
Yeah, but after listening to the appearances and stuff, I probably would have dropped him to B, but...
The idea of John Stones is better than John Stones himself.
I think you're criminally underrating John Stones.
No, I'm doing the complete opposite. I am highly rating John Stones.
Yeah, we are highly rating him.
Like I literally said he could have been A or S.
I genuinely do think he's that good.
Yeah, so do I, but I just think he hasn't put the legs in. Or his legs haven't putting it into him.
Okay.
I think even when he did play.
Right, we've got 2 more Liverpool defenders to go. I say Liverpool defenders, tongue in cheek, by the way. One of them is Kolo Touré.
I mean, if we're talking about chance S tier.
Yeah, for Arsenal maybe, not for you. Kolo Touré, I think. How many different Premier League clubs did he play for? Genuinely, let's have a quick look.
4, was it?
He played, and they were all. It was Arsenal, Manchester City, and Liverpool. Okay, 2-time Premier League champion. That has to count for something. I mean, it definitely puts him in at least C.
We're not putting Kolo Touré on the same level as John Stones.
Scott, we've got a chance to do something really funny here.
I have Kolo Touré and John Stones in the same tier.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Premier League legacy, I think Kolo Touré has a better one, even though he's won less titles.
Yeah.
He doesn't get... Oh, lads, he's not better than D here.
Where did you have him?
D or E.
Yeah, I'm not against putting Kolo Touré in D either.
Yeah. I think did he get in the side ahead of Herpier and Carragher?
Oh, it was a different time, wasn't it?
No, they all played together.
Did they?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Kolo Touré was only at Liverpool after Hipia left.
Yeah, I thought that, right?
He played with Carragher.
I don't think he played with Carragher.
2013, 2014, yeah, sorry, my mistake. So who was starting ahead of him for Liverpool at the time?
Martin Skrtel.
Skrtel and Agger. And they're not even on the list.
Did we have Mamadou Soko as well?
Yeah.
Mamadou Sakho.
Sakho, yeah.
Thinking of
I'd argue
almost
he's
Sissoko.
better than Colator.
Right. I'm going D then for Colator.
Yeah.
It would have been really, really funny to piss Chris off.
What a character.
You've done that already because John Stones is in C. Fuck's sake.
You win some, you lose some, Chris.
That's the way the cookie crumbles, LA, isn't it?
That's what they tell me, mate. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Jan Vertonghen. No. That's not Jan Vertonghen. That is who is
the
this?
other Belgian?
Yeah, the other Belgian. What was his name?
Well,
it's either one or two of them.
No, that is Vertonghen. Alderweireld's this one. Yeah, sorry.
Both going in the same bracket.
Honestly, they are both. Yeah.
I think are we all agreeing where they're going?
Are we putting them both in E?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just do that now and get it out of the way.
Genuinely the easiest decision on the list.
Okay. All right. By the way, for those of you at home who don't know, not so long ago I gave up smoking. So every now and again you're going to see me put this in my mouth. It's a little nicotine spray. I'm not doing drugs. These two just drive me mental and I feel like I need to have a cigar. And this is what gets me through. So I apologize. Okay, let's move on to Tim Cahill.
Who?
Tim Cahill. Is this what a centre back he was?
No, it's not Tim Cahill. God. See what I mean? This is what you two do to me. Gary Cahill. the Cahill brothers.
Shirt, which is stupid. Why is he in a Palace shirt?
I don't know. Why is he in a Palace shirt? That's weird.
Yeah.
It's almost like somebody did that on purpose.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
C tier centre back.
Is he?
Yeah. No, I've been C.
Yep.
I genuinely thought we were going to argue about him being in B or something.
He's not better than Yapstam. Unfortunately.
No, he's not better than Yapstam. No. But then Yapstam is in the wrong place. So is he better than John Stones?
No, because John Stones is meant to be in B.
Okay. Let's talk legitimately about the merits of Gary Cahill. Fantastic career for Chelsea. Won the Premier League a couple of times. I don't think he was the starting centre-back the first time he won it in 14-15, was he? 16-17 probably.
Yeah, he was. He was kind of like, it was him and Terry for a long time. And
yeah,
that was I can't, name escapes me now who was with them. It was always, David Luiz was kind of.
David Luiz, David Luiz,
yeah. David Luiz also not on this list, by the way.
Yeah, well, he'd be in a tier of his own because he's that good. But I would have.
Listen, we talked earlier on. I need to talk about David Luiz, but we talked earlier on about the bozo gene, right? Honest to God, he literally is Sideshow Bob. He's a fucking clown.
If we took in the unbelievable strike gene, the thunder bastard gene, he'd be S tier.
Yeah, to be fair, I'll give you that. But he is also honestly, sometimes I legitimately thought that he was playing on ice.
Yeah, that was at Arsenal. His time with Chelsea.
No. Even did he go to PSG?
Yeah.
Even
but when he was at Chelsea, he was
fucking mental.
Of course
it was. Okay, listen, we're talking about Gary Cahill. Two-time Premier League champion, 103 clean sheets from nearly 400 appearances, so a quarter of his games he kept a clean sheet. Oh God! How many seasons did he play at Palace? Hang on 1 second, because his goals conceded is wild. Okay, so
but he was also
Aston Villa, Bolton, then he went to Chelsea, then Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Okay, that makes a bit more sense then, because in 394 games he conceded nearly 500 goals.
He did spend most of his career at Bolton, though.
But is that because that's where his level was?
Well, no, obviously not, because he got signed by Chelsea.
Over from John Terry, like.
He went on to become Chelsea captain as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was he captain?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was captain after Terry retired. I'm pretty sure he.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Let's vote, gents. Scott?
Yeah, I think this is a C tier.
Chris?
C.
Okay, good. By virtue of him being former England manager and the wanker in a waistcoat, let's have a chat about Gareth Southgate.
you're asking two Irishmen to put English manager into a tier list.
No, I'm asking you to put the former Middlesbrough centre-back in a tier list. His managerial career doesn't count, but it should.
He was.
I think this is an easy E tier.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think he probably belongs in. He was a decent enough centre-back, but
yeah, he's no higher than a D realistically, is he?
Like he spent pretty much his whole career up around mid-table, lower league, Premier League sides, and you'd have to say there must have been a reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, he spent a long time at Aston Villa where they were in and around mid-table to pushing into Europe, and then he went to Middlesbrough, and he won. He did win a trophy at Middlesbrough. To be fair, I think it was the League Cup, but
yeah.
I think yeah. All right, let's just get it out of the way. That is for bottling the fucking World Cup, you prick. Okay, William Gallas.
He's a weird one because
It is a weird one.
He was a left back.
Well, he played at centre back for both Arsenal and Chelsea.
Yeah,
see, I think Chris is right. Gallas played a lot of games at centre back or left back, but his best years were at left back rather than centre back.
Yeah,
he was Arsenal's left back.
Let's find out how many he played at full back. 1 second, please. Stand by.
He was Chelsea's left back, and then wasn't he part of the? He went to Arsenal. Ashley Cole went to Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay, this will surprise you, right? He played 306 games at centre back and only 90 at left back. So it's a Jamie Carragher situation. Are you going to discount all those games at centre back? Because so far as I'm concerned, William Gallas was a centre back.
Still a brilliant centre back.
Oh yeah, still a centre back.
I remember him. Like I just think of him. The minute he pops into my head, I go, "Oh yeah, Chelsea left back." But no, he was. I know he was a centre back, and he was brilliant. I can't say better.
Like in Chelsea's best years, or in the 2 seasons they won the league, it was Carvalho and Terry in centre back, and it was Gallas at left back.
Yeah.
But
when Chelsea were good, Gallas played left back, not centre back.
But you could argue when Chelsea were good, it was Ashley Cole playing at left back.
No, well, when in 04, 05, or the 2 seasons Chelsea won the league under Mourinho, the first 2, Gallas was left
04,
back.
05, 5, 6, yeah.
Gallas was left back, which is why when Ashley Cole went to Chelsea, Arsenal took Gallas off Chelsea because it was a like for like left back for left back. But then he ended up playing centre back more.
Yeah, he also went on to play for Spurs after Arsenal as well, which is hilarious.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Sure, he was loved.
Where are we putting him, gents? Because he was a solid Premier League centre back, right?
Yeah, he was C tier maybe.
I don't
think that high. Yeah, I think D.
Even. Yeah.
Okay. As promised, loyal viewers, if you stuck around this far, you're only waiting for one name. It's the last name on our list. I did promise that he was going to be a controversial one and that we were going to have a fight, so I thought I'd save it to last. And it's Gerard Piqué.
You know, I think his time at La Masia precedes him.
Yeah. Virgil van Dijk doesn't make our list, unfortunately. No, it's Virgil van Dijk, and Scott is instantly going to say S tier. Absolutely guaranteed.
It's easy S tier.
It's really going to come down to what Chris and I think, and we could do something funny, but for the legitimacy of the podcast, and for those of you who have waited at home for this exact moment, Chris, tell me where you think he is and why.
When I look at the 4 names in S tier, I think Van Dijk is better than one of them, and that's Kompany.
Which one? Yeah, no, I agree with that.
But I think Kompany has a better cabinet, which does have to be taken into consideration, and it has been taken into consideration in this list.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think Van Dijk is the best player in A.
I agree with you. I do. I really do. And do you know what? Maybe at the end of his career, he will be in S. Unfortunately, as we talk today, he's got 1 Premier League title, and then you've got people sitting in D with 2. You've got people like John Stones in C with six Premier League titles. There has to be more that we take into consideration here. He's a very, very good defender. He is a very, very good defender, and maybe at the end of his career he'll be considered an S tier. But I genuinely don't think he is as good as John Terry. I don't think he's as good as Ferdinand. I don't think he's as good as Vidic. I don't think he's as good as Jaap Stam, to be perfectly honest with you, as an actual centre back. So for me, he's going in A. Scott, you have the chance to rebuttal.
I don't think you can put him in A. This is the centre back who was probably from 2018 to 2020 probably the best performances of a centre back you'll probably ever see. The highest peak a centre back has ever reached.
That's also not true.
I think when you look at the names on this list, they had great partners. Van Dijk's never had a great partner. He's always risen the level of the partner he's next to. He made Dejan Lovren look competent at times.
Did he?
He did. He 100% did.
He didn't. Dejan Lovren's always looked shit.
He had Joel Matip beside me. He had Joe Gomez. He made Joe Gomez look like a world-class centre-back during 2019-20. Genuinely, he made Joe Gomez look unbelievable. You look at Rio and Vidic, they come as a pair. Van Dijk, he comes on his own.
But why hasn't he made Trent look unbelievable?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't play on his side of the pitch.
It's not. He's not a million miles away from him. Like,
no, he's not a striker.
He is, because Trent's up the pitch, but like,
and he's the captain. He should be telling him where he needs to be.
No, well, the whole point was Trent goes for it, but we've turned this into a Trent debate. No, Van Dijk, he second in Ballon d'Or to Messi. He should have won that Ballon d'Or realistically. I don't know how Messi scammed that, but
come on.
From 2018, and even before Liverpool, he was world class at Southampton as well. There was a reason he was signed for 75 million. He got Southampton to Europe.
Harry Maguire was better.
Harry Maguire cost 80 million. Let's
but you're talking about modern day Manchester United signing players.
They did not go on very similar.
You brought transfer fees into this.
Van Dijk brought Southampton to Europe. Like,
I argue Mane, Dusan Tadic.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, there was a lot more to it. Let me ask you a question, Scott.
Look up Southampton's defensive record that season.
Hang on. Let me ask you a question. If he is in the all-time greatest category, how come he hasn't won more?
Because it's a matter of circumstance rather than ability.
But the great players elevate everybody around them.
Yeah, and
right?
Van Dijk
did. The team included. But defense wins championships, right? If he elevated everybody, why haven't you won more?
If you look at those seasons, the defense wasn't the issue.
But John Terry didn't play with world-class players all the time. We've just established that he played with Carvalho for a few seasons, but then he had people like Gary Cahill next to him, and he still won championships.
Yeah, but John Terry was world-class.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're saying Van Dijk doesn't measure up to the same thing. So why? What I'm saying is, John Terry made the people next to him better and won trophies. Why isn't Van Dijk doing that?
No, he didn't, because out of the pair, and Carvalho was the better of the two between Terry and Carvalho. And
that's insane. You've said on this podcast, John Terry is number one in the list of all-time Premier League centre-backs.
Yeah, but you're
saying Carvalho is better.
But if you go further back, I also did say between those years where it was Terry and Carvalho, I also said out of the two, Carvalho was the better defender. But I said Terry has the better Premier League peak or legacy.
He did say that, but he's wrong.
Okay,
he's wrong.
I mean, yeah, you are wrong. It is John Terry, and John Terry is either one or two, and
yeah, he is. Yeah.
That's it. But my point still stands, right? John Terry managed to win titles with people who weren't as good, and Van Dijk hasn't. But why is that?
Because he's coming up against probably the greatest Premier League team that's ever been seen.
With a defender in C tier and no other. Man City have two defenders on this list, right? One is in S tier, and we're all saying that Van Dijk is better than that guy. No issues.
Yeah,
but the only other defender on the list is in C tier, and they barely played together.
Yeah, but you're talking about a Manchester City team where the way they defend is by control, and they have Rodri sweeping up everything before it gets to the defense.
Rodri's only been there for a couple of seasons. He's only won 2 Premier League titles.
No, he hasn't. Rodri's been there since 2018 at least.
Let's find out. I don't think that's true because Fernandinho was there.
Rodri's been there quite a while.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Just while LA is checking that, Scott, I want to go back to what you said about the Ballon d'Or, and he should have won it over Messi. I guarantee you, if any of them four in S tier were playing like in that period where they were obviously could win the Ballon d'Or, they couldn't because of the other attacking footballers. But them four would have won it. I don't think the Ballon d'Or is a good debate to use here.
I
2020. Rodri's won 4 Premier League titles. 2020 was the first. 2021 was the first one. So that's simply not true. Vincent Kompany was well before that.
Okay, but it still makes a point. Van Dijk won a Premier League title and then they went and signed Rodri. And then the way they defended was by controlling games.
Okay. So now it's about style of football.
Yeah, because you said why did Manchester City win so many titles if you're saying Van Dijk? But it's because the style of play is they won by control. Teams barely got chances against Manchester City by the nature of how they played.
Why hasn't Virgil van Dijk gone to a club that can win trophies? Why hasn't he gone to Real Madrid? Trent's gone to Real Madrid and he's a pile of garbage.
Because Van Dijk loves Liverpool and he loves the City.
Why is it taking him 2 years to agree a contract extension? Because he really didn't want to stay.
No, he 100% wants to stay.
He does now because you're winning a league again. But until you were winning the league this season... Well, he wasn't, Scott. You know damn well that nobody knew whether he was going to stay or not, not even him.
Van Dijk getting a contract has nothing to do with whether he wants to stay or not. It's about what the board are offering him.
But okay, so why aren't they offering what he wants if he's this world-class defender?
Well, they clearly are because he's getting a new contract.
Okay, fine. Why didn't they offer it to him from the beginning if he's that valuable to the side? And I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just genuinely asking devil's advocate questions here.
I mean, you'll have to ask the board. I don't know why the Liverpool board has gone through so many changes in the last year and a half. You had Klopp leaving. They had to find a new manager. You had Michael Edwards coming back. We had a whole for the last 2 seasons, we've had interim sporting directors. Our whole midfield rebuild last season was bought by a sporting director who was only in the club for the summer.
Okay. All right. He played 3 seasons at Southampton in the Premier League, made, let's say, 67 appearances. And then the rest were at Liverpool. So 230 appearances at Liverpool. 280 goals conceded overall. 115 clean sheets. 1 Premier League title. He's won a Player of the Month. I mean, I just don't think he's done enough to go into S tier.
If you were building the perfect centre back, I think you come out with someone like Virgil van Dijk.
Someone like Virgil van Dijk, yeah, but not Virgil van Dijk.
3 other defenders I come out with quicker than I come out with Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah.
But if you were to every individual characteristic of a defender, it would be Virgil van Dijk.
No, that's an absolute lie.
No, it's not a lie.
It absolutely is.
Earlier on, LA said that Vidic was better than Van Dijk in every aspect. No, it's the opposite way around.
Yes, he is.
Van Dijk is better than Vidic in every other aspect.
Let's just have a quick chat about something else because I want to give you a chance to argue against it because I genuinely don't believe that this is true. But the most common criticism of Virgil van Dijk is his aura defending, right, where he gets his bum out like that and he kind of twerks on people. What do you think that is? Why do you think he gets that criticism? Because I know what he's doing. He's covering space and he's trying to block the ball, the path that he thinks the ball's going to take rather than the man, right? But why do you think that criticism gets leveled at him?
Because there's social media and you get clips that come up.
The same clips that you said you were going to show me about Vidic.
No, I said the reason people don't talk about Vidic like that is because there wasn't social media as much back then.
Right, but that's literally the road that I was walking you down. So Vidic gets... You said Vidic would get that criticism if those clips existed, right?
Yeah.
But Van Dijk does have those clips.
Yeah.
Because he does do that.
Yeah,
and he does get found out quite often.
And I think Vidic would have that as well.
Right, so are you saying that they're on a par?
No.
Because quite clearly, Vidic had the bozo gene.
I think you could find clips of any defender, but I think if you go watch Vidic, they were completely rational. I think if you watch Van Dijk's, like there's maybe one or two that are bad.
There's quite a few. Every time Van Dijk makes a mistake, it's clipped and it's on social media.
Yeah, every single time, and you get maybe like one a season.
Now, for the record, I don't think the aura defending is a criticism that's warranted, because I understand what he's trying to do.
I mean,
legitimately, I'm not winding you up. I do believe that.
I mean, for 2 years we had Premier League fans tuning in to watch Liverpool games just to see if he got dribbled past.
The dribble pass statistic is insane for a centre back. It shouldn't be there.
But the people were tuning in every week just to watch him fail, and he just didn't for 2.5 years.
I also watched him the other day. Actually, in the last 2 weeks, I've watched him get done by Beto, who is probably the worst striker in the Premier League at the minute, and Rodrigo Muniz, who you could make an argument for him being the second worst.
Okay, and earlier on, I watched a clip of Vidic getting absolutely done in by Sean Goater.
But
and by some West Brom midfielder as well.
Yeah, once in a blue moon, you could see Van Dijk get done every week if you looked hard enough.
And the same with Vidic as well.
What about John Terry? Do you think those clips exist of John Terry getting done?
Yeah, 100%.
Unless it's Wayne Bridge, no, not really.
So for me, the argument boils down to what kind of players are they defending against, right? And John Terry, Vincent Kompany, Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, the guys in the S tier, I think they had much harder opposition players to defend against. Van Dijk has got Haaland, and I think that's probably it in terms of elite strikers to defend against.
Kane,
and the modern way of playing football is with one striker. And back when these guys were playing, it was constantly two up front. It was a partnership of strikers, and they had a lot more to contend with. It was much more physical. The quality of footballer back then was probably better in terms of forward players, whereas now the threats for forward players come wide. You're talking about your Mo Salahs, and you're talking about your Rashfords, all of those kind of guys. They're coming from wide areas and not the focal point of the team. Apart from Haaland, I don't think there is anybody who would even get into the top 20 strikers of all time playing now.
But you can't bring up that argument when earlier on you disregarded the argument about Marcus Rashford.
What Marcus Rashford?
You were talking. You said something earlier about. I can't remember what it was, but you said something about Marcus Rashford and being on the wing.
No, I said you can't use Torres against Vidic because Marcus Rashford has scored more goals against Vidic, and I was actually arguing in your favour that those shouldn't be conflated, because that is actually true.
Okay,
I'm talking about the quality of strikers that are playing now versus the quality of strikers playing then, because the question I asked you was, apart from Haaland, can you name a defender that's played in the last 3-4 years that would get into the top 20 or top 50 all-time greatest strikers?
Yeah, Haaland, Aguero, Kane.
Aguero was...
And then you've got...
I think Aguero left for Barcelona maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Harry Kane, yeah, I'll give you Harry Kane. That's fine.
Okay,
so there's two.
Who did Vidic come up against?
Is that a serious question?
Yeah. He came up against Drogba. Torres, that's 2. Vidic's best years were when Thierry Henry was in La Liga. His best years were when Alan Shearer was about to be dragged out to an old person's home.
Okay,
there's 2. Drogba and Torres. Can you name any more?
No, I think that's probably...
Yeah, see,
that's fine. No, that's okay. No. What we're gonna do, right, is we're gonna vote, and we're gonna put Van Dijk rightfully in A, right? And what I'm gonna say is, if you are watching this podcast and you've made it this far, because Scott, how long have we been recording now?
An hour and 25.
An hour and 25. And how long of that has been Van Dijk? Probably 20 minutes. Guys, in the comments, do me a favour. Please leave a list of Premier League strikers that you believe are in the top 20 all-time Premier League players strikers that were playing when Vidic, Terry, and Kompany were playing, and then do the same for Van Dijk. Happy with that? And we'll let the viewers decide. In fact, I've got a better way of doing this. I'm going to leave Van Dijk down here, and I'm not going to put him in a category. I'm not going to put him in S, A, B, C, D, E. I'm going to leave him down here, right? And in the comments, I want you guys to vote on where Van Dijk goes. And next week, when we do fullbacks, I will put him in the category that you vote for. Chris, Scott, do you think that's a good idea?
I'm down with that, yeah.
Happy with that, Chris?
Happy with that.
At least I have a better chance than I get used to.
Well, look, the chances of him going into S tier on this podcast is 0, right? The chances of him getting to S tier on a public vote, there is a chance. Chris, you've been quiet for the last 10 minutes while you've listened to Scott and I argue. Do you have anything to say on Van Dijk that we haven't covered already?
Yeah, I don't think he's. I think I've said it all. He's better than the three boys. He's not better than Kompany, but Kompany is a better cabinet. Van Dijk is definitely it here, in my opinion. He just hasn't done enough.
Okay. Listen, if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. You did get the argument that you were hoping for. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and in the comments, let us know where you think Van Dijk belongs. Thank you very much for watching. Tune in next week to find out where he ended up and to see Premier League fullbacks. Thank you for watching. See you next week.